You ever think about quitting?
It's the combat of life hammering the snot out of you.
Well, stand by, dig in deep, and get ready to get fired up with us.
Welcome to the Team Never Quit Podcast, the #1 podcast that inspires you to fight on. I'm your host, David Rutherford, here with Mr. Never Quit himself, Marcus Luttrell.
Our mission is to help you embrace the suck of life, to teach you the values of working your ass off, and to interview the most hard-charging people on planet Earth.
We know life is hard. It's time for you to suck it up, Buttercup, and let us teach you to persevere in every environment imaginable by sharing real-world lessons learned by those who never quit. That's right. It's time, Marcus, for us to help them defeat the negative insurgency in their lives.
You fire me up. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll.
Let's roll. Now, one of the coolest things that can possibly happen in my mind, right, is getting an opportunity to start out a show in a way that is right up our alley. And I think today's show, because of who we got coming on, because of what he's going to hopefully talk about, is the perfect opportunity for you and I to talk about movies.
Yeah, we can do that.
I mean,
we can do that for hours.
for a long time. I mean, your obscure gung-ho reference the other day to the 1983 Michael Keaton phenomenon.
Yeah.
Just made it.
Well, while he's telling that story, that playing out you know how I do it, man. I've taught myself through watching those movies. It's that repetitive stuff. So if I ever get into or hear about a situation that I haven't been in, I'll reference a movie that I've seen it in.
And that's why the wizard was like, hey, I know what the two of you guys need to do.
Yeah.
You guys need to start talking about some movies before you get into the interview. So that's what we're going to do.
We could critique a movie every There you go.
Well, now you're talking.
Right.
Now you're talking. But before we do that, before we get
the
to
new
our...
Siskel and Ebert.
Oh, dude. The modern day Siskel
Right.
and Ebert. Maybe that's actually what we'll become
Right.
as reviewers, professional.
I care what you're talking about, man. Just tell us about the movie. Right?
So the thing we're going to start out in this particular movie dialogue, because of who's coming on and your relationship with him and all that and what he did and what he's been doing, is you and I are going to discuss the greatest war movies of all time. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. All right.
This could go for a while.
It could. It absolutely could go for a while. All right. So I'm going to start out and say my first greatest war movie of all time is Apocalypse Now.
You actually have them numbered 1 to 10?
I do number them.
Really?
I do.
And then what about, it doesn't matter if it's a different...
A different genre or context.
Right, is it
or
a movie
period?
about World War I or World War II or Vietnam or
Yeah.
the Civil War or what was going on during the World War, like Schindler's List.
Schindler's List.
Excuse me,
Absolutely.
Schindler's List.
True.
It's a war movie, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What is it, man? World War II, they can generate, maybe because there's multiple battle fronts and there's just so much going. I mean, there's still movies coming out about World War II that's about stuff I haven't even heard about.
How about Saving Private Ryan?
I know, it's epic. Band of Brothers, right? It's not a movie, but we watch it like a movie.
Oh, it's absolutely.
I sit down when it starts, and I'll get up when it's over. It's 9 hours or something.
Popcorn, you love juju.
Right?
That gives a whole
Kinda
new.
like Lonesome Dove. That's one movie to me.
That's
And as soon as one movie.
it's
As soon
not
as
a
it goes
series.
on, I'm like, oh, we started it, got to finish it.
Well, all right. I see what you're saying. So you go back.
But for all intents and purposes for this, if we had to line them out, that'd be tough too, man. Because as soon as you said favorite war movies, I went back all the way to the last. I was like Braveheart, Patton, Full Metal Jacket, right? Platoon.
Oh my
I watched
God.
Platoon and
Deer
Ramadi.
Hunter. Deer Hunter.
Right? Great part about Deer Hunter, man, is they brought what it was like to be through the entire deal, right? In the small town, going in, coming back.
And the pain and all that.
That was heavy, man.
Would you say that that was one of the first great memories where, as a young person, that you could begin to contemplate the magnitude of war and what it does to everybody?
We watched it with the men in my family.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Stuff like that. When I was younger, if you were going to watch a movie like that, you had to watch it with the adults.
Right.
We didn't have TVs in there. So maybe that was why. Maybe they weren't doing that at all. Maybe the movie was so damn boring they let the kids come in to watch it.
Exactly. That's exactly how.
But I like to think about it the other way, but
well, I mean, the same thing. Like I remember Big Red 1 for me with Lee Marvin, right?
yeah.
I mean,
man, those.
That was one of my favorite movies, and it wasn't. It was because the intensity with his men and that story. Remember, Mark Hamill would draw the cartoons of each battle, and they humanized it instead of it being this just grand epic battle. Right? It was about the stories.
Yeah,
it was the stories of the guys in between, and for me, that was the coolest part.
Yeah, because I think a lot of movies these days, it is the action. Let's see, give me the baby, not the labor pains, all that stuff. So it's kind of like, all right, that's all they know about the warfighters is that part of it.
Right.
That's how they can relate. Back in the day when they would make war movies, they'd kind of give you samples of what the whole life was like.
Totally.
So, I mean,
like The Great Escape. I mean, you think no, you made a great call.
Let me ask you this: is it like movies about Afghanistan and Iraq? I really don't watch them.
At all.
I don't watch them, man. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just
the proximity of you emotionally, or just that that's not interesting. You've been there.
All right. Well, paint like this. So when you're watching that movie about Iraq or Afghanistan, and you've been there, so you also remember what that smelt like, what that felt like, what that all of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
No,
even
for sure.
The taste in your mouth from all the garbage being burned and stuff like that. So when you're watching
the flake, the blank flake.
I can watch any other war movie about any other war, and it's not that I can't watch our movies. It's just this. I don't know. I'm not.
It hits me differently for sure.
It doesn't affect me. I mean, I don't get emotional, I have to run out or anything like that. I don't know what. Maybe because we were there. I mean, you can't make a movie. I guess I shouldn't. Can't make a movie about. So both of y'all know exactly right. I couldn't stop fast enough, right? It just came out.
It just came.
It's just perfect. I forgot who we had on. Oh, that's epic, dude.
So
Are we leaving that in?
Yeah, that's staying. That's staying in, dude. And that's the perfect segue into welcoming our next guest.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The world-renowned, the incredible, the man, the director of Lone Survivor. We're going to welcome your great friend, your close friend. We got to bring him on the show. Let's get him on. All right, Marcus. Now, once again, we've got one of your friends coming back on the show, and I got to tell you, man, that just gets me fired up. It also gets me fired up because I love this dude's movies, man. All right. And I am a little biased because he did do your story, and so that is near and dear to my heart. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome Peter Berg to the show. Peter, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Nice talking to you, Marcus. How you doing, man?
Good, brother. Good. Miss you.
Miss you.
I know you're a busy man right now.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to keep it all moving, but I sure do miss you. Good to hear your voice.
You too, brother.
Well, the way we start off on this, Peter, is we give a mad minute to get you warmed up, to get your brain firing, to get you thinking, just like we would do if we were in a CrossFit gym. But this is for our little gray matter upstairs. So what we're going to do is we're just going to let them rip at you, and whatever pops into your brain, just fire right back at us. You ready?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Go for it, Marcus.
All right, brother. What was your first car?
My first car was a Volkswagen Rabbit GTI. I told her that it just smashed it real bad, and my girlfriend, Sarah Johansson, she didn't have her seatbelt on because she was making out with me. She went through the windshield.
She went through the windshield?
Making out with you,
Right through the windshield. That was the end of that relationship.
And the car. All right, next question. Who out of any person throughout history would you love to get drunk with?
Winston Churchill, no question. He's one of my great heroes. He was my father's hero. He had the original never quit attitude. He was one of the baddest men to walk the earth. And he was a hard drinker.
Yeah, he was. He liked to turn them back. There's a great legendary story about when he came over with President Roosevelt and he stayed 2 weeks here, that they got trashed every single night, which is awesome in my mind. All right, Marcus, throw one.
All right, brother. Favorite superhero?
Superhero? Marcus Luttrell, no question.
Set myself up.
I'll go with Luttrell over Iron Man or Superman any day. I'll take Marcus.
Any day of the
And
week.
Morgan, maybe like the Luttrell brothers as a superhero team.
It'd be the dynamic, too. Like Wonder Twin Powers.
Yeah, he's Captain America in my mind, anyways.
If I had only one call and I was in trouble, those two boys would get that call. That's for sure.
Amen. I'm right there with you, brother. All right. If you could get in a cage fight with anybody in history, who would you love to get in a cage fight with?
A cage fight? Like, oh, God. I mean,
he's a boxer.
I know.
There's a couple of people out in Hollywood I wouldn't mind getting into a room and just beating the shit out of them. But
wait a minute. Are we talking cage like Thunderdome with chainsaws and axes?
Yeah,
and stuff like that?
I'm talking Mad Max. Like, this is to the death, man.
There's a couple of, shady businessmen out here in Hollywood that I wouldn't mind taking a chainsaw to if I could get away with it.
All right, brother. Movie character you'd play out in real life.
Oh, Randall McMurphy, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Jack Nicholson. He's my hero.
Oh, he is so awesome, man. I mean, we've referenced that several times already, and the way he and Nurse Ratched get into it's one of the greatest storytellings of all time, man. I love that.
Jack, we love you.
I always felt like, he was the triumph of the human spirit, and just like that. There's more never quit attitude. Like, when he tried to pull the water fountain out of the ground and couldn't quite do it, and he had that great line, "At least I tried."
At least I tried.
As a kid, that really hit me hard. When I was a kid and I watched that movie, that was a lesson.
It's funny. A lot of times Marcus he'll throw out references to movies throughout every show, and one of the questions that I want to go to you, if you had an opportunity to live out a movie character's life for the rest of your life, who would that be?
Oh, shoot. Well, did you ever see Shampoo with Warren Beatty?
Yeah, I did.
I mean, Goldie Hawn asked him, who did you sleep with? How many of them did you sleep with? And he pauses, and he looks at her, and he just says, all of them. I like him, and I like Richard Gere from Officer and a Gentleman. That was always another one that I really liked.
Oh, I just watched that the other night with Louis Gossett Jr., man. And when he gets up there and they get in their fight, I love. Are you going to quit? Never. I love
Never.
I always text Morgan when that goes on.
Mayonnaise.
That was a movie that got me probably more than anything else wanting to go into the business. I watched that movie like 10 times in a row when it came out. And I still maintain that that's like one of the perfect movie scripts. Like that movie has everything in it.
It is. Small town guy from the. Yeah, you're totally right. I love that film as well too. All right, Marcus, last one, bud.
Han Solo or Indiana Jones?
Yeah, I'm more of an Indiana Jones guy. I was never, I'm not a big sci-fi dude, so I can probably relate more to just bullwhips and jeeps and chasing girls down mountains and stuff like that. But I go Indiana Jones.
All right. Well, there you go. There you have it. There's the Mad Minute. Now, that was a good start. I like it. All right. So I know you're fired up. Your brain's working great. I know Marcus is tracking. I'm tracking. So the reason why we're doing this show, Peter, is because we want to try and inspire people that are out there that are facing adversity, that are struggling, that are going through tough times to never quit. And so we bring on guests such as yourself or from sports or from all walks of life, former military people, and we have them on and we ask them one powerful question to get the ball rolling, and that's, what is your greatest never quit story? So could you share that with us if you could?
Well, I mean, there's something that comes to mind, obviously because I'm talking to Marcus, but it really is one of my most proud accomplishments was when, we started to make Lone Survivor, and it was a hard movie to make because Hollywood didn't want to make films about the military, and they didn't want to make films about the conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq because they hadn't been doing well. And Marcus just kind of looked at me and said, "Man, you understand, this is a story people need to hear, and you have to tell it." And it was very challenging to make that film. And one of the most challenging was, meeting with the family members of Marcus's brothers, the Axelsons and Marcus and the Dietzes in particular, who were, still so deep in the process of grief from losing their loved one, and to meet with those families and give them my word that, I would and my team would do everything we could to finish that movie and make them proud when there was nothing but obstacles, and people kept saying you can't do it and you're going to blow it, you're going to anger them, and to finally not quit on that, and to have Marcus as inspiration for me to not quit on that, but to believe that we could honor those men with that film, and then to finally show them, those families, the movie in the theater, and have the lights come on. And I will never forget Matt Axelson's mother walking up to me, and I was crying. I was the one that was a mess, and she put her arms around me and gave me a big hug and said that we did it right. And that to me was, that was 4 years of hard work, and never taking our eye off the ball and staying focused. And it was the most satisfying experience of my career by far.
That's awesome. Well, Peter, that sounds amazing. And one of the cool things that Marcus shared with me the other day was just how you guys synced up and the process of how Marcus and, he knew that you were the guy for him. And what was that kind of pressure like when, the stories out there? The book is the phenomenon that it was. It really gripped the world. And it certainly gripped our community for sure, but it's gripping the world. And then Marcus, is staring at you going, hey, can you make this happen? Is that a challenge right there, to be staring at the guy himself?
Yeah, of course. I mean, to start off, the project started off with just me and Marcus, and that was a tremendous amount of pressure. For anyone that knows Marcus now, he's got a beautiful family, and he's mellowed a bit. Back when I first met him, he was a ball of intensity. He was very, very intense, and he would stay at my house, and we would have these long talks about what happened and about how important it was that I get it right. And that was intense. And then over the next year and a half or so, Marcus slowly started introducing me to the SEAL community. And I started meeting, many, many men who had very strong opinions of this story, and they were all very determined and to make sure I understood how important it was to that community. So meeting the operators was intense. Then I started meeting the mothers and the fathers of some of the men who died in that operation, and that was beyond intense. And it just, every day it just became more and more serious, intense, and deeply personal to me. And there were many times I would say to my friends, I don't know why I'm doing this. I could just make a love story. It was that pressure that made not just me, but Mark Wahlberg and all the actors involved want to work that hard, want to get up so early and tell that story, because we had this added pressure of not just Marcus, but the entire SEAL community. And that, for me, that's why I want to work. That's why I want to make movies. That's what gets me going, is the pressure of having the real people staring me in the eyes and making sure that we get it right.
Oh yeah, I remember when I was in LA and the first time we had met, and then I went and watched The Kingdom, and I was sitting in the theater and watching that, and then I gave it to him. I was like, hey, it's all yours. And what he didn't, you couldn't have anticipated this part of it, because not only was I was standing there telling, hey man, you really got to get this right, because that's NSW coming down, and I'm talking to him about it, and I go, hey, it's gonna be, when you meet the families, man, get ready. There's a lot of them, right? Normally when someone's doing a movie, they're talking to the one person that the movie's about. Well, this is about all of them, and he did it, man. He went around to all of them, met with them, and then was personal with them, just listened and learned. And I mean, you could see that as the film unfolded, that because each one of the actors had an identity. And then the movies don't get made quickly in Hollywood. And so from the time I came into his life to the time, well, till this very moment, actually, I mean, he still hears about it. I mean, he's still a part of the family. And not only did he deal with the families, then, like I said, we integrated him into a couple of the platoons at some of the FTXs, see how he did. And eventually he went overseas. There's a couple of times they were supposed to go and it got canked, and then eventually he got over there, and then that kind of completed the circle, man. And then when he started filming, it was game on.
That was the finally. I had spent a lot of time researching, but I said to Marcus, I said, I really want to go over there and see it. And he kind of looked at me like, "Are you serious?" I said, "I do."
No, you don't.
He said, "I don't know. Let me make some calls." And at the time it was Admiral Olson, I think. Eric Olson was the head of SOCOM, and he was an ex-SEAL, and I had to go to Florida where their headquarters are. And because of Marcus, he saw me, and I said, "Look, if you let me go to Iraq, I can probably make a movie that feels authentic." And he looked at me, and he said, "Okay." And I said, "No, I'm in Iraq." I'm like, whoa. And that ended up being by far that was the one of the great moments of that whole experience. But that's what helped me understand kind of how those men, not just operate, but who they are, and how fun they are, and how much they love each other, and how funny they are. Like, I don't think I've ever laughed as hard in my life, ever, as I did with a platoon of SEALs, in the desert of Iraq. And that was, a wonderful time.
Well, it's remarkable that, that is such a huge core component of our culture, right? To be able to find, either the humor or bring levity to really intense pressure situations. And
Yeah.
I think as a storyteller, and a really good one, it's amazing that you are able to translate those small details, and it means you're paying attention to the guys of the story you're telling.
So I would report back how things were going, and then not only did I had to check in with the head chefs, he did too. They would look at him and say, "Okay, tell me what you're capable of," that kind of thing. Putting him through it.
Right.
So, because that was back when Warcom shut everything down. There weren't books, movies, anything like that. We had permission to do that. And so having the backing of NSW and then the confidence in Pete rolled out.
That's pretty awesome. Now, Peter, one thing I want to ask you is, and you have a lot of depth to your creative capabilities, and you look at your filmography, you look at your background as an actor. One of my personal favorites was Aspirin Extreme back in the day.
That's a shocker earlier.
Thank you.
That's shocker.
But what's awesome is,
I like shocker.
When I got a feeling there was a shift when you did Friday Night Lights, and you really dug into, bringing out a story that connects connects people to kind of their lives. And has that been a focal point for projects that you want to tell real stories in a genuine way that makes people inspired?
Yeah, my dad was a big reader, and he only read nonfiction. And he would tell me that nonfiction was the highest form of art and literature, and that fiction was okay, but the real gold was in nonfiction and learning about history and real stories, and going out and meeting real people and finding out their lives, and he found such inspiration in that. And when I was in school, I took journalism classes, and I used to do kind of investigative stories on just different people in the community in Minnesota where I was going to school, and that was always a huge part of what formed me as someone that wants to make movies. And I love superhero movies or whatever, I guess I don't really love them. I respect them. But, when the book Friday Night Lights was put into my hands, it was the same experience as when Marcus's book was put into my hands. I just sat down and read it and was just so inspired by the fact that you don't need to add anything to it. It's just so incredibly compelling. And then when I did Friday Night Lights, I got to meet the real coach and those kids that were on that team, and that just blew me away. And then obviously after reading Lone Survivor, when Marcus Luttrell, walked up to me and put his hand out, there's just nothing better for me than that. And when I can make that connection, somebody will let me into their lives, and they have a life that's extraordinary. Those kids playing football in Friday Night Lights, or those FBI agents that had to go try and investigate a terrorist attack, or Marcus Luttrell, who went through what he went through. Why would I want to, what more could I ask for as a storyteller? And so those are the kinds of stories. And Friday Night Lights was probably the first time that I really realized I could take my love of nonfiction and turn that into movies.
Well, that's awesome, and it's palpable, and I think what's really cool to me as you progress, and with your latest with Deepwater Horizon, I'm super fired up for Patriots Day as well too. Is it seems like you're really getting good at pulling out stories. Now I remember when Marcus did the premiere, and you and the other producer were there. You came out and there was just it was just all SEALs in one of the theaters, and you came out and you made this great comment. You said, "All right, are you guys going to kick my ass now?" And JJ got up and said, "No, Mr. Berg, you're going to get a pass on this one. You did a great job." And I had a chance to stop you after the movie and say, "Hey, I think you did a really amazing thing. You showed the love that we had for each other and how hard they fought on that mountain." And you really,
that was the biggest thing when the families and the team guys signed off on it.
I mean, it must have been for you in particular. And I remember talking to you that night afterwards.
I passed it all on to him.
Yeah.
Like, hey, bro, it's all on you, man.
Oh,
man, heavyweight.
So if you can, try and help, our listeners understand when you look at those great stories, what are the key components of the never quit mindset or overcoming adversity that you try and pull out that translate on screen?
I mean, for me, it comes down to almost one thing, and it's love. It's
Amen.
The more I learned about the SEAL communities, and for anybody that knows SEALs, they can be nasty, they can complain, they can argue, there's all kinds of personal issues. Some SEALs hate each other's guts at times. But at the end of the day, what I observe, no matter what, you get the most unlikely group of men, people that would never know each other under normal circumstances. You get a Southern boy like Latrell who becomes great friends with a golden boy from Long Island, Mike Murphy, and these guys never would have met each other. They go through this training and these deployments, and they develop this love for each other. It is so deep that exists in the middle of really, really chaotic and terrifying situations. And at the end of the day, as corny as it sounds, that's what's fueling them. I've heard Lucas talk to wives of SEALs and say, I know your husband better than you do. I know what noises he makes when he's sleeping. I know what he smells like when he's crawling through a window with a gun in his hand at 4 a.m, getting ready to go kill something. I know what that's, I always joke and say I want to make love stories, but to me, these are love stories. And the love that those men had for each other, and the love I've observed in the special operations community in particular, is that's what gets me excited, and that's what's got to be at the heart of these stories. It's not just about running up hills and killing bad guys. There's a real sense of self-protection, protecting your brother, fighting for your brother, never leaving your brother behind, doing everything you can to survive and make sure they survive. And that's why people get so inspired.
It is. It truly is. And I love how you wrap it into the love, because it's true. I mean, at the end of the day, what we do is we go through this painful process, this forging process, to hit a point of the willingness to sacrifice one another for love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's already there too. I mean, if the situation dictates tragedy, if it dictates victory, those people that are in that situation they're already together, right? The love is there, and then that situation tests what the resolve of that. And those are the best stories, man. When they refuse to give up on each other.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be, just like you said, it doesn't have to be in war, man. It was just out in the ocean on a rig or whatever it is. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I found that to be true. In the high school football community, these young men come together, and these coaches come together, and obviously the stakes are not as high as war. But for these kids, this is everything.
It is for them, yeah.
I remember when when I first got to Iraq, and I would talk to the SEALs about, their feelings about the political landscape, and Bush versus Obama, and, whether we, and they would kind of look at me with like, bro, I don't really give a fuck. I'm here for my brothers, And
Amen.
at the end of the day, we have a job to do. We're going to do it, right? And that's a given. The passion is all about the man next to you, and that is so real, and that goes back to Band of Brothers and World War I. I would imagine there's civil. I don't know how far back that goes. Way back.
As long as human beings have been fighting.
As long as, yeah. And, the fact that, and then just, what I've observed is I've gotten to know the communities, and, I'm fortunate to be able to, I'm making a new TV show now called War Fighters. It was Live to Tell. We changed it to War Fighters, and we've got 90 veterans working on that show now. It's a show
awesome.
about war stories made, by veterans and by guys that have, and it's such a joy to watch these guys work together in a new business, now, 5 or 10 years out of the teams, but to still see that brotherhood is phenomenal. And it truly warms my heart, and everybody that sees it. It's very inspiring.
It's very interesting you talk about it like that. We just interviewed Tim Kennedy yesterday, and Tim's a former Green Beret, and now he's a UFC fighter, and he's got a bunch of other things going on. And he made a comment about, hey, you can take 20 special ops guys or 100 special ops guys, drop them in any environment, and they'll make an impact. They'll make an immediate impact. And what I find fascinating is, you as a director or producer will have to pull together a group of people, let's say specifically for the Lone Survivor movie, pull them together, and you're under this crunch, this time frame. How do you pull the best out of those people to really put out at the highest level to translate that love so the end user, the person in the theater, can feel that at its depth?
Yeah, I mean, are you asking how I do that?
Yeah.
I mean, really, I don't have to do, what I found by having, Lone Survivor was, I'd worked with SEALs before as stunt guys and things like that on other films. Lone Survivor was the first time we really had a bunch of special ops guys working with the script, working with the other departments, being part of the production team. And I just found that it was effortless. They came in, they were the first ones there. They were the last ones to leave. They were extremely polite. If they hated someone's guts, they for the most part kept it to themselves, and they just worked harder. And what was interesting was having all these SEALs on set. It became an infectious quality where we had, SEALs working next to union guys that had been doing this for 20 years and were a little jaded, and they all started working harder. And I found, everything went better. The only area I had to really watch my slots out for was the women on the set, because they were all constantly in danger of being instantly impregnated. So I had to watch out for that.
That did happen. That did happen.
That's a whole nother story, but we won't get into that right now.
So imagine every normal team guy situation and the evolution of that just on a movie set.
I can't. I'm trying to.
He's being a little modest. I mean, asking how he pulls that out of him, he's a great leader. I mean, you can tell he's been around a while, because as soon as he comes on set, man, and starts rolling, and we just, hey, what do you want us to do? How it normally works for us. Yeah, and he'd tell us what he wants done, and we'd go do it. And then when the actors and everything started rolling, it was on point, man.
Well, that's true. That's true. Like I did behave. I mean, I find that with everybody needs to have a boss of some sort, and obviously the military, these guys, if they believe in you and they believe that you have a vision and you know what you're doing, they're gonna follow your lead. And I think I was fortunate. I did so much research. They sensed that I knew what I was talking about, or I put the time into to learn and respect the nuances of their community and their culture, so they listen to me. I think if I just come in there not knowing anything about anything and just started yelling, it would have been a completely different scenario.
Did you find the same thing with the oil workers and the rig? All these guys that are out there on those rigs, and when you were doing Deepwater Horizon?
Yeah. 100%. But I found that, you know, I find that for any film I do, if you're making a film about real people and real culture, it doesn't matter whether it's a Navy SEAL or it's a group of people that work at a hamburger restaurant. If they don't feel like you've respected them and taken the time to understand who they are and what their lives are all about, they're not going to respect you. And if you do, you're gonna get it. You're gonna have an incredibly satisfying experience. So whether it's an oil rig, obviously in Boston, we spent a lot of time with the police and FBI agents who were on the front lines trying to catch these brothers. Some of the victims who lost legs, and the family members of the four people who were killed. We have to go in there to those communities and sit with these people and be open and honest and develop relationships. And then we find that it works well. If we were just to charge in to a community, particularly like a SEAL community, without doing that work, we would be shut down, very aggressively. And I saw them shut people down that they didn't respect. I mean, there were many times that SEALs would shut people down on our sets if there was no respect.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
But it could get out of hand sometimes. When we were filming on top of the mountain, I remember everyone was harnessing up because the camera guys were leaning over it, and then all the frogs would be like, yeah, we don't need any safety. I'm talking about it's kind of like, well, we can't do it like
No, there was a couple of times on Lone Survivor when, someone would come up to me, Marcus or one of the other SEALs, and be like, that guy over there? Yeah, he's got to get off the set right now, like right now. And I'd be like, Roger that, no problem. I wouldn't ask why I did, I just would respect that. But they, if there was a lack of respect, it did not play well.
Well, the cool thing about it, man, when we would come on set first thing in the morning, especially we were in Santa Fe, I mean, hauling all the gear and everything up through the gondolas and trumping it up. I mean, there's so much that goes on a movie set. For him to be sitting at the top of it as a director and everything ran as well as it did, man, that just...
He's a field general, man. He's the admiral, though.
Yeah, man. But that's we would always step back and watch kind of how that would unfold, man. And I like what Mark is saying because it speaks highly of who you are, Peter, as the leader of a set. Who taught you how to do that? Where did you learn that kind of mentality of leadership?
Oh, man. I think I started a long time ago at the very, very, very bottom. I was enlisted. I had no pedigree. I had no film school training, and I started, 22 years ago as the guy who, if you threw up on the set, I went and got a mop and cleaned it up. No, literally, I was the bottom of the barrel, and I slowly worked through film production over a long period of time. And had almost every single job there was on a film set, and there's a lot of them. But I was the grip, the electrician. I worked in the camera department. I drove trucks. I cooked food. And then I started acting a bit, and then I started writing. And somewhere along the way, I pretty much did every job there is. And that gave me a well-rounded education and understanding of the whole, the totality of the process, so that if and at some point I began to realize I knew everyone's job well enough so that if somebody was bullshitting me, I knew it. If somebody was doing a really great job, I could see that. And I think it just gave me such a broad understanding of the film process that I've been able to get the respect of people because they know I understand the process. And if they're fucking up or they're slacking off, I can call them on it, and I'm right. And if they're doing a great job, I can make sure to acknowledge that, and that feels good. But I really did I started at the bottom, and I learned the business, across the board, and I think that's helped me a lot.
One of the interesting things that you always hear about Hollywood or pursuit in music or whatever it might be, in different forms of medium, is that there are a lot of people that quit and give up and go back to where they're from because it's just so cutthroat. Did you ever have those moments where you were looking at yourself in the mirror and going, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here, I'm gonna go become an engineer or something? Yeah,
I actually never did, and I think that I always I always had the attitude that, okay, if I couldn't get this job, I was going to get this job. If I couldn't get that job, I was going to get this job. And all the jobs were sort of aiming at one goal, which was to be able to be a film director one day. And, I enjoyed the suffering. I was willing to find joy in the journey that got me there, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
So that when I was living with bad guys and we were, we didn't have money for drinks, so we'd go to bars and we'd look for drunk girls, and one of us would distract them, and the other would steal their drink. Like back in those, but those were fun days, and I just kept working, and I always believed that maybe somebody would have more skill than me, but nobody was going to outwork me. Nobody was going to get up earlier. Nobody was going to stay up later. Nobody was going to. In that attitude, over time, that attitude of persistence just really worked. And I would say there was a lot of guys with more talent, but nobody was going to outwork with me, and that paid off.
I'd say it paid off,
Yeah, right.
don't you, brother?
No, it makes getting to the end that more sweet, right? When that journey.
Yeah.
What else are you gonna do? I mean, you're living your life, and when you're young like that, and you're learning all those little details about being a film director. That way, when you become one, just like you said, if something goes wrong, you're like, well, that's not really how that. I know how that works. You're lying. Work harder. So
Yeah. And I remember, like, when I was first observing Bud's classes, and they would talk about attention to detail and why, if your shoelace wasn't tied right, or your oar wasn't properly stowed in a raft, why they would just rip someone apart. And I could relate to that instantly, because I used to get ripped for, literally, if I didn't mop up someone's spilled coffee properly, that was a big deal. And learning now, I'm 52 years old and in the middle of a career. Those are the little things that I look at, and I look at young kids out there that are trying to get into business, and I'm like, can you go get lunch and make sure everybody's got the right lunch order, and it's delivered and it's hot and everything's good? If you can't do that, you're going to have problems later on. It is that attention to detail, and that is something that I found. I noted that when I was watching all the Hell Weeks and the breakouts and all that. Like, that's what they're looking for, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Hollywood's a small community, so when you're back there fetching a sandwich, and then you ran into the sandwich shop and there's some other dude fetching a sandwich, he's probably a director now too, and you laugh about the days back, and you're like, yeah, man, this dude had to go through it to get right here. So,
you and I were laughing about it last night when you're a new guy in a platoon and you got to take your beat down, and then when you're in a position of authority, I mean, it comes around.
He's directing a movie and has a young actor in there who's going to throw some at you, like, are you out of your mind? Or put you in a small trailer.
That's when he wants to call you and Morgan and get a good hazing going on.
That's on the set, man. I mean,
True.
Peter, the last question I want to ask you is, our listeners come to the show because they, and you just really summed up a lot of it about the journey, about the attention to detail, the discipline, the willingness to do the shit jobs, to learn the comprehensive perspective of your craft. What advice can you give to that person that's stuck, or the person that is, afraid, or the person that isn't sure about what's in front of them, the pain? What can you say to them right now that'll get them up and get them back in the fight?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to keep trying, and you can't quit. And even if it feels like you're going nowhere, if you're actually applying yourself, even in the smallest of ways, you're getting up. Marcus would talk about how he had to crawl on his stomach with his legs not working and his teeth busted out of his face. He would just try and say, I'm gonna crawl from here to that tree. I'm gonna get 15 feet today. And maybe he only got 8, but at least he got those 8. And the next day it was up, and I think that kind of mentality certainly paid off for me. It's just every day make an effort, do something, apply yourself in some direction, whether it's exercise, it's work, it's family. You've got to act, and you have to. You just can't lay down and give up. And if you act, it might not come when you want it, the way you want it, but it will come.
That's awesome. Well,
that's the best part about it is you don't know when it's going to come. It's just that's the excitement of doing it. That's ultimately what drives people who are doing something. The passion in it. It comes from that. And I mean, you're right. We talk about this all the time, man. It's that one guy, man, he just keeps standing up. Eventually the other guy won't, and just keep pushing ahead. I mean, it's life. That's what life is. It's those little steps throughout. What was it at during Bud? It was long days or slow days and fast weeks or something like that. I mean, made no sense when you're going through like that doesn't mean anything.
I just want to stop shivering.
Who the hell said that?
Right? You guys are having fun.
It doesn't feel like it in the get-go.
All right.
Well, listen, Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And I just know that there's somebody out there that's going to hear what you said. It's going to connect with them, and it's going to inspire them to chase their dream, either to becoming a director, an actor, or something in that field, or even just in anything else. So we really appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, bro, for everything, man, and taking the time. You got that new movie coming out, so taking a break to come on means a lot, bro.
No problem. I love what you're doing. I'll talk to you later, Marcus. Much love to all of y'all.
Take care.
Okay.
God bless. Bye. I know why you like that dude so much.
Right?
I mean, you look at his, when I was doing the research on him and I went to Wikipedia and all that, and you look at just the length of his career and the depth of it, but then all of a sudden he talks about cleaning up someone's vomit or the coffee, and he was a grip and an engineer and a lighting, and he went for lunches and all. He understands the totality of the business.
Right. And if you look at this point in my life and in his, after spending time with him, you kind of watch the pattern of him growing in that world, from cleaning up the, shit burner, right? You got a shit burner patch?
Dude, when I first got out and I first started speaking, my speech was all about, we always go back to cleaning the shitters in life.
Right? No. So, I'm sorry. I thought I had a point there. Oh yeah. So now after Lone Survivor, and even before that, really, man, he's starting to. You can tell when he finds his niche, I guess, is in those true life stories, because that's the best stories, man. Just like you said, the nonfiction, the ones that have actually played out in real life, either sports game, World Series, the clutch play, or something in real life like Operation Red Wing. Or Deepwater Horizon, man, and his ability to connect with the people who actually went through it. And the more he does this, the depth on that. So having to deal with a bunch of SEALs, and then deal with in Boston, and then out in the Gulf. Think of the perspective he has on chaos and pain. Right?
Well, also
and it brings that out in his films.
He's got 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes to tell that story too.
Great point. In the amount of, and some of them things, mine was 5 days. He condensed that into an hour and whatever it is, and this, that's what separates the talent, right? Those
Absolutely.
Guys that can see through the entire story and say, man, I can.
Here's the big point.
Right, and put them
Here's
together.
the big points, and it was funny, and what I didn't get to finish with the story about getting to chat with him after him and thanking him for, telling the great stories of how you guys fought as hard as you did on the mountain, and then making the family members proud. What it was in the big context of America and life, he was able to inspire people to realize, am I doing enough for my team?
Right.
Am I really committed to the people around me who love me, like these guys are?
Right, and it shows how much he loves what he does, because hell, the actors showed up well before we started filming. Mark and Ben and all those guys, man, shipwreck. We called him Millhurst Shipwreck. I love you, brother. Because when we first got him, and they didn't know anything about it. Mark had some experience behind a weapon, but you got to hand it to him, man. There wasn't any coaxing him into it. We took him to the range in the heat and just hit him with it.
And they were doing it.
Oh yeah.
Well, you said Ben Foster was he was hitting 1,200 meter steel.
Watch out for him. He's good.
Is he?
Yeah, he's good.
That's
They
cool.
all were, by the end of the training cycle, and by the time all the frogs were done with them, man, they were rocking and rolling. And then we put them in those situations in those training situations like we do to create that bond, that brotherhood, man, because it was intense, and they did it, and they performed. And Pete, he was
the leader.
Yeah, man.
And what I really like about his perspective too is that he's a no bullshit guy, right?
Oh no, no.
I mean, he's not afraid to say, this is the way I believe filmmaking should be. This is what interests me. This is what I'm going to do. If you don't like it, then don't watch it. Don't look at it.
And again, with a lot of times in Hollywood, you see about their last actors and producers and directors, their last film. These guys, man, they do. It is a small world, but they do so much outside of what the big movies. I mean, he's
writing, he's producing.
Boxing,
the thing with Discovery Channel, right?
He does with those. More and more, he's starting to film those real life dramas.
Deepwater Horizon, right. Patriots Day.
And we talked about that earlier, man. He take that on board. I mean, he's got to absorb all that.
A lot of it. The
just
social,
to get it right.
The emotional and social responsibility to, like he said, to the families, to the story, to the people who are bringing it to. I mean, you think about the weight of carrying a real live story, somebody's life.
Oh man!
And bringing it.
Ours is 19 families.
It's crazy.
All of that, right straight to him, not to me anymore. To him,
and it's on you,
right? And that's why I'm like, hey, look, man, I love you, brother, but this. Don't screw this up. Remember when I was telling the wizard that spear was dangerous? I was like, hey man, don't screw this up, dude.
This would be bad for you if you screw it. Yeah, dude. This is for all of us if this goes sideways.
He's like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, well, just don't screw it up, man. Well, give me some. No, that's about it. There's a lot of advice in that little phrase right there, Savvy. Man.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, just God dang it, Pete, man. Thanks for changing my life. I mean, for the better. I went to Hollywood and just everybody was so great up there, and I didn't have any problems. All those stories here, it was remarkable. And the people that were a part of that film and kept that story alive. It's immortalized now. Our brothers will never die.
Ever.
That film passed down. Those guys to do that and to make to get the sign off and the blessing from the team guys and the families, that was huge.
That's cool. Well, we're so stoked to have him on. And Marcus, thanks again for tapping into one of your close friends. It means the world, I know, to me and the Wizard, and especially to our fans and our followers. So, as I reflect back on what I hope you understood and you heard out there listening to this show is to realize that, don't stifle yourself because you're not willing to do something that you don't feel is directly correlated to your end goal. There are a lot of different paths to achieving your purpose. Some of those paths are the real component. It's the pain, it's the suffering, but it's the details in that pain or suffering that gets you to where you need to go. So when you finally get the opportunity to experience what you're hoping for or that greater sense of purpose, you will have the breadth of knowledge that can govern your actions, where they have meaning, where there's purpose behind them, and you can have great influence in whatever choice you make. And I'll tell you what, I also want to make sure that if you're a first-time listener, please go and visit our website at TNQpodcast.com. You can go there and you can check out all the other shows. We've got a ton of great shows, great content for you. Please also, if you want to take us and have us on demand, go ahead and subscribe via iTunes, podcasting. Subscribe to our show, and you can listen to us morning, noon, and night. You can listen to us while you mow your lawn, while on your drive to work. You can listen to it while you're at work if you're allowed. We want to be able to give you this content at all times so you can learn to ignite that fire in your gut, to overcome obstacles, and to face adversity with the never quit attitude. Marcus, who do you want to give thanks to before we sign off?
Thank the good Lord, and I want to thank Hollywood and every actor and actress out there that just sticks it out and pushes through the crap, because, man, it does get tough out there for them, and creates that reality that pulls us out of ours, right? That's the beautiful part about that world up there, man. They create the world that, I don't know, we'd like to be in, or we think we're in, and it's just that imagination that they have that touches so many hearts across the world. I mean, think about it. When everything's in the dump and you don't have any money or anything like that, you still want to be entertained, right? I mean, so they really do have a purpose, and I think a lot of times that gets lost in in translation with the social media, and they're just as quick as they are to build themselves up, they can tear them down, and that's got to be rough in itself when the family turns on you, so to speak. So hats off to them, man. Thank y'all for what you do.
I want to thank God, and I want to thank my family and my friends. I want to thank the SEAL teams. I want to thank the Wizard and Marcus for giving me the opportunities. And again, I want to thank the people out there who are creative, who are bringing new ideas, whether it's through song or film or television. I want to thank you for grinding it out, coming up with great ideas, and spending the time to deliver them to make my day just a little bit better. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make your day a little bit better. Because I'm telling you what, great stories ignite legends. I'm out.